Yep, thank you. I'm recording. I think you can stop yours because it would be not full. Thank you.
Hello, Chris.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, we're starting in a few minutes. Just to need to wait all guests and Soham also, so we will start very soon.
Super.
Good evening, Soham.
Good evening, good evening. How are you all?
Yes.
Finally, amen.
Yeah. Today is better. Yeah.
Yeah. So just 1 minute, I will, start my YouTube channel's this thing, live recording as well.
We still have 15 minutes, right?
I'm sorry.
We have 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, we do.
Mhm.
I believe we have got some attendees as well. I'll put out a post on the Slack. And on LinkedIn.
So welcome, only 4 minutes less to the start. Welcome all. We are starting in a few minutes.
I believe Yulia, can you put up a post on the Slack as well? And meanwhile, I'll put up a post on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So I think we can start. Soham, I will give you the turn, please.
Sure, we can go ahead and start with this. Just give me a moment. I will put on my video so that you guys can see me. Let me know when you guys can see me.
Not yet.
Okay, now.
Yes, hello. Now we can see you.
Yeah, that's great.
All stage for you.
Thank you, thank you. So hi, hello, and welcome all to the second day of our 14-day long machine learning marathon. And I believe this is Soham Sharma, your host and organizer for this event. And this event is powered by Neuton.ai, Bell Integrator, and we have our partners as AI Guild, Silicon Valley for You, PAC Publication, and our tech giant, Arm. So we today have Dr. Chris ArmBruster, who is the founder of AI Guild and Europe's go-to community for data science and data and business professionals who are advancing towards the AI adoption. So you can join at the Guild AI. We'll share the link on the chat and sometime. So he is also a pioneer in setting up the highest standard for data careers at datacareer.eu. We will share that link as well. So he also enables companies to deploy with the confidence of the data lift that we have. He's presently the head of Datacareer and leads efforts for the AI Guild to set the highest standard for data career. He was previously the directory community of the Drivery and director of Data Science Retreat. I believe he also has a good campaign to have 10,000 data scientists for Europe. Wow, that's a huge number. And I'm sure it's very much possible with him leading it. So it's like, I believe this has been starting from 2018, right? So yeah, so that's what his particular aim is. And we congratulate him for such a huge effort and aim. So hi Chris, how are you? And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Hi, Soham. Thank you very much actually for this wonderful introduction, and hello to everybody.
Thank you.
Also, special thanks to the organizers for making this possible. I'm going to proceed from here by sharing my screen,
Sure.
if Zoom allows me to do that, and switching into presentation mode for the time being. So I'm guessing you can all see this now. So I'm here this afternoon or this evening or this morning. It actually depends where in the world you're joining this. To talk about how do I start a data career in the 2020s. This is going to be very pragmatic, very hands-on, really aimed at helping you to start a data career. You see below, first or second role. So of course, it's for practitioners. It can be the first or second role. Perhaps it's even useful if you're looking for your third role. And you see below data analytics, science and engineering, machine learning, NLP, and computer vision. We could also add deep learning. So you already get an idea that how do I start a data career in the 2020s is at a moment when data roles have differentiated and they've become more specific. I noticed in the presentation of the panelists that it still said for almost everybody data scientist. But going forward, we will see a lot more people with more specific profiles where we'll then say NLP engineer or computer vision expert or some such thing, MLOps. And this is, I think, the story of the 2020s as AI is being organized at scale. So I'm going to run through this for you. I also noticed that we have a chat function, and that the chat function, I think, is open to everyone. So if you like, at any time during me talking to you, you have a question, you would like to interrupt, there's something you would like to say, just use the chat. Use the chat to everyone. It will pop up. I will notice, I'll pick up your question, and I will respond. So I'm very happy with an interactive format, and also actually keen because I'm really here to support you in your data career. And that includes, answering any question you might have. So why are we doing this, and why are we here this afternoon, and why is this still important? You don't have to take it from me. You can take it from Jean-François Gagné, a French-Canadian serial entrepreneur and also a founder of an AI startup together with Benjo, who said, no matter who you are, self-improvement is one of the most important and most overlooked attributes of young talent. It only takes 4 years of experience to become a senior or 5 years to lead. And then he added, the determination and discipline to improve both the hard and the soft skills continually will be the deciding factor. So I'm guessing that this 14-day marathon or sprint, depending on how you look at it, is actually part of this effort, yeah? The determination and discipline to improve. To some extent, a lot of what you're getting in the next 2 weeks is, of course, on the hard side. And if you're so like, I'm on the soft side today, because I'm going to be talking about what you need to do in terms of your CV or resume, what kind of business skills you also need, and how you look at presenting and perhaps also improving them. So there you go. This statement is a couple of years old, but I think it's still true. Up next, so from where I come, Soham introduced me as a member of the AI Guild and also as part of the original founding bunch. There were a lot of us actually at the beginning. And we have a track record and also some insight. So there's some of the things that we know. The labor market in the last years has grown very much. It's now estimated to be 500,000 practitioners worldwide. Then we also know from experience that numerate graduates from any discipline or numerate people with prior industry experience are well suited. That experience with Python, R, and SQL really facilitates a smooth transition. With MATLAB, for example, it doesn't, but with Python, R, and SQL, it does. And that there is an increasing specialization for data roles and domain expertise that I already alluded to. And then from where I sit and where the AI Guild is, that was started in Berlin, but is now a, for sure, pan-European network with local meetings in Stockholm, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Berlin, Zurich, Munich, Paris, you have it. We sort of have a track record. So we've contributed to hundreds of startups, hundreds of CVs that were aimed at industries and startups by advising members, looking at what they were doing and kind of also then supporting people to move into this field in terms of a career transition. A specialty has been helping highly numerate PhDs as well as postdocs, but we've also supported career transitions for other people from all, not all walks of life, but from wherever people have come that are numerate and have prior experience with Python, R, and SQL. So this is really the common denominator. And then out of this emerged an AI Guild effort to kind of actually build a platform that accompanies practitioners throughout their professional life. So you'll see there, if you click on it, that it says, we have you covered from entry level to CXO. This also has something to do with the AI Guild membership that is really practitioners from entry level to CXO. And this is where this is going. Then particularly relevant today is the fact, as I already mentioned, that we've looked at hundreds of CVs. And we've developed a format that I'm going to share in a minute that can lead to an AI Guild validated CV if you want one, but also actually leads to publicly available information, free events, and so on, that you can on your own use soft skills, to improve how you present yourself, how you talk about yourself, how you write your CV, how you go to the next job interview, and simply how you structure your career as you go forward. A bit about myself. So AI Guild we already had. I'm a former bootcamp director when there was only one bootcamp in the whole of Europe. So a few years ago, I also once worked for the Max Planck Society, Jean Monnet Fellow at the European University Institute for the European Union. I have a UK PhD. And actually, I was born in Berlin a long time ago. And then perhaps relevant to today, I spent some of my childhood years in Dhaka in Bangladesh, 4 years to be exact, at an American school. I already alluded to that there are things that we do, particularly for PhDs and postdocs. So here's a selection from last year. You can also see that there's typically actually a team doing this. So I was involved with most of this, but there's also always other AI Guild members helping out and answering questions and presenting and sharing their experience. Okay, so data careers. I already, I had the quote from Jean-François Garnier. The other thing that you will definitely remember is, the sexiest job of the 21st century. So that's the flashback. That's like 10 years ago. And I'm showing you to then make this point again. So it's changed, okay? Whereas companies had the lone data scientist, and the data scientist alone seemed to be the sexiest job of the 21st century. And you can find early reports like Analyzing the Analyzers that basically looked at early roles and then had, the data creative and the data business and the data programming and so on. So very basic, very rudimentary. We're now in a situation where we have 500,000 practitioners. First thing to note, only less than 1% is still in AI research. So 99% is part of the implementation. This is a rapidly growing number. The significance is precisely in this implementation, and I think it changes the game also if you are planning your move for a first or second role. Here's another way of looking at it, this time coming from California, that I wanted to share with you, where you can already see this kind of idea that there are different roles more clearly articulated. You can, if you like, go and look at the report for yourself. And you see here, so to speak, on the one side, data scientist, machine learning engineer, data analyst, software engineer, and so on. And I want to draw your attention to one point here that I find interesting. So particularly in Europe, but I also think in other areas of the world, there has been a lot of focus on data engineers, not just data engineering, but also on data engineers as a role. Now, Workera, a deep learning AI company affiliated to Andrew Ng, doesn't agree. Okay, so look at this. Data scientist is a role, but data engineering is a function. Actually, it's the key function, the first and the key function across all roles. I think this is something that you need to do. You need to ask yourself in your first, second, or third role, okay, what's happening? How is the field evolving? Where am I going? Do I want to be a modeler? Do I want to be an analyst? Do I want to go on the software side? Missing here perhaps is MLOps. Do I want to be in the deployment department? And then what are the functions that I have in there? What do I need to be good at? And then just taking again the data scientist here as an example. So in the Workera scheme of things, you need to be good at the data engineering. You need to be good at the modeling. Okay, so this means maybe your core function is modeling, but unless you're also good at engineering, you understand data quality, you really can judge what's coming in, your models are going to suffer. So you need to have some comprehension of these pipelines and if need be, do them yourself. But for deployment here, it's blank. So of course there will be data scientists involved in deployment, but they're making here the point that for a data scientist, deployment skills aren't core, they aren't key, rather business analysis. So the idea that you have an idea with the models that you're doing in terms of commercialization, what their value might be, either to your company or the customers or users, or depending on how you frame it. And you can look at the rest, you can find this report. I think this is a really important point that everybody who's in the first 5 years now should be thinking about, because if you want to get ahead, you want to be a senior, you want to be a lead, you want to be a director, you need to answer these questions. Another point I want to make, I very often really focus on the technical roles. And then I want to say, yeah, so if you're here today and you flinched because I said you need Python, R, SQL, data experience, high numeracy, and so on, you're thinking, I don't have all of that. I'm not even sure if, and so on and so on. Yeah, fine, because it's not just AI, there is more. I've thrown here up a report from the Royal Society that you can also go and find online that has these nice little table here that kind of makes clear that there are other roles that aren't, so to speak, so technical. Yeah, they're more managerial. They revolve more around data literacy. They perhaps revolve more about doing things in the background. And then, of course, also if you're thinking of moving into business or you're already into business and you want to move into a management role, the one thing that is often really missing at the moment is data literate management. And one example I'd like to give, so I mentioned I was born in Berlin, so take German automotive companies, known all over the world. They have been really successful over the last 40 years. And then they are now, of course, implementing data, but it's perhaps not always as smooth as you would think. And one of the things that we know from this experience is that these automotive companies have lots of engineers at the top, mechanical engineers, automotive engineers. And you would think, okay, STEM, probably numerate, mathematics, and so on and so on. But just because you're an engineer doesn't mean you're data literate in the sense that is required for doing analytics, data science, and so on and so on. And even more to the point, perhaps, or more severely, we know that inside pharmaceutical companies, data scientists often have a really hard time because the statisticians, the one that are responsible for the randomized controlled trials that are so important in terms of getting a drug to market, as we learned during the COVID pandemic, because the statisticians sometimes look at the data scientists and think, machine learning, black box, voodoo. I want nothing to do with this. Yeah. So there are conflicts around this. And the companies simply need more people that get it, that understand it, that have also perhaps sometimes an intuitive approach to it, but that have this type of numeracy that fits there. So many more roles to be had, and data literacy is a big thing. Okay, so, and then I said, I'm going to be pragmatic. So what do I see? What do I see as your main challenges? So I think there are 4 of those. And this is true Europe, America, Southeast Asia, India, doesn't matter. Job seekers often struggle to frame their skill set. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Sometimes if you're a beginner, you have little or no relevant industry or domain experience. That's just how it is. Companies sometimes prefer upskilling current employees. So for example, noteworthy in Europe is that Airbus, the aircraft manufacturer, chose to upscale 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 internal employees, engineers to data analytics and data science. This is precisely giving the trained engineers and management people the numeracy and also the literacy that then allows them to do the analytics and the science. And if they do that from 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000, they will be hiring, but they won't be hiring much, obviously. So sometimes this is at the entry level an issue. And then, if you basically need to get inside the company first, almost no matter how, before you can then participate in the data endeavor. And then perhaps also noted by some of you already, sometimes employers are not very good at finding the matching talent, starting from the fact that some of the job descriptions kind of leave you puzzled or bewildered. They ask for too much or too little or too unspecific, or you figure there are 2 things in there that don't really go together. So there can be these struggles as well. Then if you're here today and you're thinking about the career transition costs, then one of the things I would like to put to you is, this is spoken from a European context, but relative speaking, true somewhere else as well. I'm talking to you today about organizing your career, and I'll show CV stuff and getting to the interview stuff in a minute, because the point is to start a data career or to get a second role, what you need to do is you need to get the interviews, and then you need to get the job offer. We sometimes think that the best way to do that is to pile up certificates and do this training and yet that and yet that. It takes time. It may also cost money. There are, of course, a lot of free courses, but increasingly you also pay for this, that, and the other. So you might be spending a lot of time and money without actually having checked, and I've seen this unfortunately all too often, without actually having checked whether you would already get interviews, or if you're not getting interviews, what else you might do except learning for another year that gets you the interviews, which is why I'm here today. So I'm here today to help you accelerate your search, preferably, by cutting your search time by half, and also by giving you tips and advice that really take down your transition costs or your search costs for a second role. So this is what this is about. Okay, and for doing this, I have 3 simple ways of asking you questions or things that you should look at. So one, I've already been going on about which data role is actually your best choice. You need to answer that. It needs to say on your CV relatively clearly, I'm a data analyst, I'm a data scientist, I'm an ML ops, I'm a machine learning engineer. And it defines your ambition, obviously, and it's also how you get evaluated, and it's the type of jobs that you would apply for. So which data role is your best choice? The other one is, I think, equally important, at what type of company do you want to work? So you want a role, but you want to be at a company, but it actually needs to work out for you. So one of the things that also I've seen way too often is that people start at some company and I get a phone call some 9 months later. I don't like it here. I've now found out that corporate life, while offering security, is actually so boring. I already go to sleep on Wednesdays. So what is it for you? Do you want to be part of a global corporate? Do you want to work for a medium-sized enterprise? Is it a startup? Is it a consultancy firm? Give it some thought. If you can figure out what it is for you, perhaps you have prior experience that tells you through internships or prior jobs, and you can articulate that, that also helps you in the recruitment process. Because if you can tell a company, I want to work for a startup, and actually the reasons for this are A, B, and C, then the startup can look at your reasons and understand that this is what they're looking for and it matches to them, and interview and hire you with more confidence, right? Because you know what type of company you match to. And then the other one is which domain or industry is yours. This is this thing that a long while ago, you could be a computational biologist looking at medical images and then work for an autonomous driving company because, well, that's how it was in 2016. But it's not how it is going to be in 2026, and it's already not like that. So your domain expertise increasingly matters, and you need to figure out, are you fintech? Do you want to work for a bank? So this is the kind of like established company or startup. And is it really finance, or is it marketing, or is it health? And in health, is this computer vision, or is it patient data? I know that you may not have answers for this today, but these are questions you should be looking at again and again and again. And it's actually 3 simple questions that should help you structure your career from start to year 5 or 10. So to the senior level, perhaps to lead, because if you want to be a lead in a company, that's what you need, right? You need this data role. You need to be competent. You need to be a senior data scientist, but you will only be promoted if in the company that you're working, you also have the domain expertise so that the product and the business side really realizes and understands that you bring value because you know what you're doing also in that way. So that is that part that is really important too. Already by way of introduction and other such stuff, there are stuff that you can help, and I'm going to one more time post here. So I've prepared for today, actually especially prepared for today last night, a text that you can access through this medium. And if you scroll to the bottom of the text, there's a link that takes you to the slide share. So everything that you're seeing right now is available for you to download and use in any way you like. On we go. This one we don't need twice. So 1 minute on the AI Guild. So on the one hand, we provide the free information, but on the other hand, also for people that are really looking to accelerate their search, particularly in Europe, we have a service that is called Validated CV. It's a paid service, as it says here, that gets you one-to-one attention and helps you understand, how to do this better, how to structure your CV or resume so that you get attention from the hiring managers. And here is why we're doing it, because we figured out, so the service isn't actually expensive. If you pay up front, it's just 238 euros, VAT included. But if you come first, we can reduce your search time by half or more. And we can also really reduce your costs, out-of-pocket expenses and opportunity costs, because you perhaps avoid unemployment by doing things faster and earlier. You understand that what kind of technical skills upskilling is necessary, if at all, so you avoid expensive career transitions. Okay, on to the 4 elements of the validated CV. So I've spoken, generally about it and tried to get you to think about it in a particular kind of way. And here comes the praxis, the pragmatics of it. So you want a first or second role. At the end of the day, you need a CV. Sometimes you can apply on LinkedIn, but then LinkedIn is your CV. And actually also then LinkedIn needs to show certain kinds of things as mentioned here. Otherwise that LinkedIn profile ain't going to work for you either. And perhaps you're using a CV resume writing service, then you need to pay attention that somehow this is in there. Otherwise it's also not going to work. So what's going on here? 4 elements. So technical skills. You need a really good technical skills section. I'll explain in a minute what that means, because this is how you get considered. And think of it like this. So think of it, in the old-fashioned way. You do a document, you PDF it, and you send it somewhere. And the person opens it up. So you do that with your own CV if you have one, okay? PDF it, send it to yourself, click on it, open it up in a reader, and see what you see. So really, on that first half of the page that is then visible on your laptop, are your technical skills really clearly profiled? Are actually the technical skills at the top of your CV? And above those technical skills, does it really clearly say what you're looking for? So this focus with the search and mission statement, what you're looking for, who you are and where you're going, is that really visible at the top of the page? And the same then goes for your LinkedIn profile. Do you really make that visible? I know LinkedIn has a technical skills section somewhere lost below where some of your friends have clicked, but actually if you're using LinkedIn to apply in that about section or somewhere at the top, you also need to make your profile clear, okay? So is that there? Then the other 2 parts I have here is be invited for interview by demonstrating your business skills. So the way I like to think about this is technical skills are great. They're actually the requirement. You haven't got them, you won't get considered, but so do many other people. But now you want to close the first deal. And the first deal is actually to get the phone call or the email that says you're now invited. The interview process is starting. Your phone screen is next week. if you want that, you need to do more, particularly if you want that to happen soon. And it goes back to what I was just banging on about in terms of domain expertise and industry expertise. You're working in a company. So what are your business skills? And it's not just saying, I'm terribly creative. It's proving that you have them, okay? So coming back to that as well. And then final point here, lead on the interview by telling your data experience. So this point here is CVs and LinkedIn profiles have positions, bullet points. Sometimes people do it well and they actually show the outcome and the improvement while they were working, yeah, this type of thing. But it still kind of misses the opportunity of telling the other side in relatively simple terms what your data experience is so that they get it and that they trust you to have that data experience. I'll also explain that in a minute. This basically means that if you do a phone screen or you move to an on-site interview, you have in your LinkedIn profile, CV, resume, something where you speak about as eloquently as possible and as simply as possible about your data experience that the other side can use to kind of start asking you questions, you know, asking you to elaborate, and just also generally sometimes used for small talk. And the real big fat advantages of doing that well is you do it, you're on your home turf, right? You have an opening that they can use and you can talk actually initially from your comfort zone, although it's often said we should go outside of your comfort zone. One of the things that's really nice at the start of an interview is if you can start inside your comfort zone and then build outwards. So this is really important too. Okay, so technical skills. I was saying something about this. Here's what this means. So I'm saying it's not a list. You need some sort of profile. And I'm immediately going to go to an example so that this becomes clear. So this is what your technical skills section should look like. And focus on the left, programming languages, data analytics, ETL pipelines, machine learning. Then it says something about the level of proficiency, here by indicating 5 years or since 2020, and then it gives more details, okay? And the point of this is that if you look at it, there's a profile that emerges here, okay? There's a profile that says, I have been programming using Python and Bash for a number of years. And I'm strong in data analytics. These are the tools or libraries that I've used. And I have some idea of ETL pipelines because I was doing radio astronomy or astrophysics, and therefore I've been doing something in that direction. And then the machine learning is actually newer, right? And it's also clear. So you get a profile of somebody that can start in a data analytics role, actually probably strong in a data analytics role, but it's also clear that the person isn't applying for an ML role. Yeah? And this is the type of profile. Look, another one where this is accomplished in more simple terms, but perhaps also clear, technical skills, Python, R, and SQL, then data processing and wrangling, data visualization, and statistics and ML. Okay, so you get an idea here of somebody that is intimate with data, knows how to do this, has done this for many years, has also some experience with statistics, with scikit-learn, stats models, and PyTorch, and on top of it, the visualization. So you get somebody here, even though it doesn't say data science in this strict sense, but somebody that is perhaps more in the ML corner and would be considered for such roles. So going back to the general one here, the point that I want to make is I've seen so many CVs that just list technical skills, or I've seen so many CVs that somehow put in a lot of stuff and then also mention the, Linux and Mac and Microsoft and I don't know what. Take care, please, okay? Your reader needs a technical skills profile that indicates what you're good at and in which direction you're going in terms of the data roles. Sometimes it'll be explicit and you say, I want to be a data analyst or a data scientist. Maybe sometimes you're in between, it could be both, but nevertheless, this profile needs to be clear. Because always imagine the other side has they open that PDF, let's take that example, then they have 60 seconds, maybe 120 seconds for a first decision that is likely to be yes or no, or actually what you're interested in the first 60 to 120 seconds, you need to avoid the no, okay? You need to avoid the no, you need to get past the no so that you get considered further. For that, you really need a well-organized technical skills section. So this is really important. Next, the business and organization skills. Actually, I'm also going to start from an example. So here's business skills from somebody that has some industry experience already. Now, analytical skills, project management, and communication and presentation. Okay, it's kind of like, I know I'm working in a company. What is it inside the company that I can contribute to making our work more productive, more efficient, to ensure that their outcomes, that their business outcomes, and so on and so on. So these are ways of looking at it. And then if you look at the bullet points, the point here is to be specific, not just to say, I've done 2 years of project management, but to really give the other side a good impression by saying, I used Gantt charts. If anybody knows what that is, it's a project management tool that also allows you to structure dependencies. Yeah, I used Gantt charts to or I was responsible for the planning and realization of a production process or something like this. Yeah, so be specific. I have another example here for you quickly. It's called transferable skills. So that's for all of you that do not yet have business or industry experience, but are at university, master's, PhD, postdoc, whatever degree program you're in, you have transferable skills. So transferable skills, you can also use your search engine to look at that, is this concept that out of academia and the practices that you had as a student, PhD, postdoc, something like this, there are things that you've done that lend themselves to being transferred. And you need to discover what those are and kind of describe them. And here you're looking at it, okay? Project management, strategical thinking, interpersonal communication, and expertise sharing. Notice that with all of these examples that I've shown you, they don't follow a template. They have a certain structure to them, but it's not a template-y thing. It's yours, okay? It's unique, it's your personal one, and that actually is, of course, also the point here, because it's your application and you want the role. So the question really is what's specific or unique to you. There was a comment coming in, sir, the CV examples you've shown are for someone with experience. Yeah, these are actually entry-level positions, and that's the thing that I was talking about in terms of the 2020s being different. And we know that Python, R, and So here's the one that I showed you at the beginning with the technical skills. So this is somebody that did a PhD in astrophysics. Actually, her name is Richa, she's Indian. She did a PhD in astrophysics, and right out of, submitting, defending, started as a data scientist for an e-commerce, in e-commerce. So this is the thing, because she was doing a PhD in astrophysics, she has those 5 years of Python, okay? Because astrophysics at the end of the day is a form of data engineering and searching for the signal in the noise. Not that I know what astrophysics, I understand generally, I'm not an astrophysicist, I understand roughly what they're doing, but not the details. But you can see how this has changed. So this is actually somebody who used this to get the entry-level position, okay? That's also why I'm showing you these examples. And I understand that's a bit tough when I now say this person already had 5 years of experience, but it's partly what's going on in the labor market. And I can also say she did the validated CV and within 3 months signed a contract. After many interviews. Same here, actually. Again, it is because in prior masters, and I'm not sure if this was also PhD, but in prior study work, this was already used. Okay, so then I have another question here for, can you show how would be the CV if they want to change career from one field to the other? Actually, it would still follow the same kind of logic. Take this example here again. We had somebody here who studied at the university in Zurich, actually, and after completing the degree, decided to kind of make their passion into a job, if you so like. So we had somebody that was really, really keen on photography, and actually, interestingly, not on digital photography, but on the old way of doing it, yeah, where you had the film, and you needed to develop it, and you had prints, and so on and so on. So he actually joined a company that still excels at this, is why I was responsible for planning and realization of the production of photographic paper. Okay, so this, and he did this for about 2 years until he thought, okay, this isn't really working, and I want to move into a data career. And then he had to go back to some of the skills that he had from doing a numerate enumerate degree, and using his industry experience, and then kind of applying for this. And in the meantime, actually also doing some upskilling and training. But this is it. In the business skills section, your prior experience really counts. And then, of course, also it simply counts in the way of, so if you're upskilling to data in the same domain, so this is the example I gave you from Airbus. So you're an Airbus engineer working on some part of the aircraft, and to improve process and work and so on, you're looking for analytics or machine learning use cases. Great. I mean, you're staying in the same industry, you're upskilling, you're now a more data-driven person, works for any company. If the person leaving Airbus then wants to go for work for another company that produces stuff related to aerospace or aeronautics or airplanes, that will also work. Yeah, there are service companies looking at the engines or whatever, easy. It probably also still works if you go from aerospace engineering to some other form of vehicle engineering. So I could even imagine that you could go from Airbus to Daimler. Now, what happens if you've been working for Airbus and you now think, I want to do computer vision with images in medicine. I want to move to health, and I want to look at whatever images that doctors are looking at, and understand if machines can improve or provide a first opinion for the second opinion, or whatever it is that you imagine there. Is that still possible? Is that still meaningful? How would you do that? So one of the great things of the 2010s has, of course, indeed been that you could do that these kinds of really career moves, from far right, out right in the field to somewhere left in the field or so were possible. And this is unfortunately increasingly less so. So companies have come to realize that this domain expertise is important, and therefore, if you want to do it, the question is, you really need to ask yourself, do you have domain expertise? And if not, what is the specific thing that you've already learned that you bring that makes a difference to them? So there is, of course, that you all know. One of the big success stories of the last 40 years has been interdisciplinarity. Companies also understand that they need diverse teams. Consultancy firms in particular excel at having, I don't know, management people working next to art historians, working next to engineers, working next to MBAs. Yeah, so this works, this interdisciplinarity. But you need to ask yourself what it is that you bring there that makes a difference. I think that's my point. Especially from a teaching position to data science and AI. What's the teaching position that you were looking at? Are you teaching at a school, at a university? If you could tell me, then I could probably elaborate on that. Other than to say it's then again a career move like many of the others. Okay, so you're working as a school teacher. The question then is, are you anyway in a numerate disciplines, or are you teaching, for example, mathematics or physics, and you anyway have the background, and maybe you have been learning programming skills on the side for a year or two? Then this should work. I mean, one of the noticeable things is also still that people with dedication that pursue this, I've seen people move from linguistics and literature to data science. So it's possible, but it's harder. I mean, you just need to be aware, statistically speaking, your odds are a bit longer, but with determination, I've seen it happen. Okay, I want to move on. I spoke about this data projects or data vignette. Actually, I'm also going to start from the example here right away. Why is this important? Why am I showing you this? Why is this an example that you should look at? Now, when you're applying to companies, I sometimes get people who tell me that they want to work, of course, at FAMGA, or FANG, or whatever acronym they use to describe Amazon, Google, and the rest. Yeah, okay. Then you have, of course, these tech giants where everybody inside the company basically understands it. But the other truth is that most of the companies that you would want to be working for, small, large, consultancy, corporate, doesn't matter, probably have an ongoing business that may well predate 2012, and data scientist as the sexiest job of the 21st century. So you need to be able to convey to people what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it and what the interesting outcome is, even though they're not like you. They don't share your background. And in comes the example of a data project, or here something I would call a data vignette, shorter, kind of tries to emphasize how much and what you were doing with this. The idea of trying to explain in layperson's term, like in science communication, or like how do I tell my grandma what job I'm doing, what it is. And it matters. It matters to human resources, and it also matters to other people in the company that you meet as you go through the interview process, because one of the things they need to believe is that if they hire you as a data person, that you can actually also talk to the other people and persuade and convince them, kind of win their trust, so that they go along with the vision of the company being more data driven. So this really is important. And then never mind, or as I mentioned earlier, I think the really, really important side benefit, you do this well, and whenever you get called in for interview, you have this wonderful opener. You've written something, they can relate to it, they can ask you follow-up questions. It really makes a difference, I think, to that experience and getting hired. And you remember I said, right, at the end of the day, it's a two-step process. First, you need a LinkedIn, CV, resume, whatever that gets you the interviews. And then you need to get through it. And yes, you may now say, well, but there are always these technical challenges, the coding challenge, they're going to throw a use case at me. Yes, true. And you have to pass it. But note, in many ways, you have to pass it. So it's pass fail. Just passing it doesn't get you the job offer on the table. But some of the things that I'm now talking here about actually get you the job offer on the table, because you provide that additional value that a company will be looking for. So you want 2 job offers or good job offers. Please look at some of this. Okay, so I've gone through this and I trust you've had a chance to look at it. So I want to go to the final part, actually also start here from the examples before going to the overview. So I said at the beginning, in terms of the 4 elements, please be aware there's something like this search admission statement or your profile statement. Sometimes it's just called, you would call it about myself or something like this. And actually it goes at the very top of your CV. And while you look at this, and perhaps you can also read the next one. By the way, I'm a data analyst with 6 years experience. Here is an interesting case. This actually was a postdoc, okay? And the point is that when you're an academic, you will be tempted to write, I'm a researcher, or I'm a PhD that is looking for a position in data analytics. No, please don't do that. You need to say in your profile statement what you want to be evaluated for and as. So I'm a data analyst. And then the 6 years of experience, of course, you need to show that it's true, but these 6 years of experience with data processing were in academia. Okay, but back to why do you need to do this, and why does it need to be at the top of your CV, and why is it so important? It is so important because you've heard about attention economy and people having a short span of attention and people needing to make decisions quickly for you or against you in this kind of game that we're talking about at the moment. So if you can tell them relatively straightforward who you are, what role you're looking for, what your key strength is, when you're looking, where you're looking, what type of company you want to work, you have a summary statement that answers all the basic questions that the other side might have. And on top of it, it goes at the top of your CV or your LinkedIn about section or whatever it is, because it needs to sit there so that people see it first. And on top of it, while you're sending this out or asking friends to help or former colleagues to, and so on, if you put it in and it's really, really clear, then this thing on its own can help yourself. So think about it this way. In the European, but not only in the European context, we've had like 70 years of cover letters. They've been fading for a while, but most people will probably still have written one. The cover letter is this funny thing whereby you have your CV, then you look at an application, and then you try to persuade the company that they should hire you. And sometimes companies still require that, and if it's a must-have, then you have to do it. But often you also have had this idea, you're wasting your time, it's also error-prone, and sometimes you're thinking, am I now just making this up? Does this really? And so on and so on. So it's a cumbersome way of doing it. The more effective and more efficient way of thinking about this is to kind of use the startup mentality and think of your CV as the product. If you so like even the minimum viable product here with the profile statement, in the sense that it needs to answer all the basic questions and it needs to stand alone, and the user, customer, reader needs to be able to make sense of this on its own without you standing next to them or sending in a cover letter and saying, but the way you're supposed to read this is X, Y. It really needs to be that clear. If you do that well, and for example, I have your CV and somebody else phones me and says, I'm looking to hire X, Y. I remember your profile statement or just vaguely remember there was something. I can look at those 3 lines and make the match. And I can, for you, kind of make the connection and pass it on. And if it's well done, the other side will go, oh yeah, I recognize this is the type of person that I'm looking for. Great. Okay. So this is if it really goes well, I like to call it, getting to yes in 3 sentences. Yes, you get the interview. Okay, that's the idea here behind this. So here are a couple more overview examples, including my favorite one, somebody who managed to do sorry, that was not supposed to happen. Somebody who managed to say everything essential in just 1 sentence. It's the one in the middle. I'm bringing machine learning skills to the energy industry to help decarbonize the supply of heat and electricity. Yeah, this is fantastic. So I want to work in the energy industry. I have the machine learning skills. You're burning oil, gas, coal. I don't really want to talk to you. It's not really interesting unless you can show me that now you've changed your mind about things and you are really here to help decarbonize the supply of heat and electricity. And any company that's in that business of decarbonizing the supply of heat and electricity and has an inkling that machine learning is important, and actually it's incredibly important, for example, for renewables, they will want to talk to that person. Yeah? So that's how fast you can get to yes, if done well. Okay, so I've been through with the examples. I have also had a look at the clock and seen that we've been going for about 45 minutes. So I want to round this up again by pointing out that for those that are interested, the AI Guild, which is, by the way, a practitioner community with 1,100 members, you saw the link to the website, that from the practice that we have been sharing, this kind of idea has emerged. The thinking behind this is very often the free information that we provide and the guidance may actually be good enough and serve you already, and that's great. Sometimes, however, it's just the case that for some of these things, we're just not the expert. I totally get it. I mean, this is kind of like, so you're a machine learning engineer. So you don't have to be good at writing resumes. I mean, why should you be also, yeah? So if somebody is out there that wants this type of help, it's available, and we're happy to do it. This is a summary of the benefits, kind of telling you what you get out of it if you choose to have a validated CV. So you get the validation based on the network, you get exposure to the hiring managers that are AI Guild members, and we really think that we can cut your search time and also your costs considerably. So that's that part. Here's my, so to speak, final slide for you. And I'm hoping that actually you have more questions for me, either in the chat or if you like also through the microphone. I'd be happy to answer any and all of them.
Hi, Chris. This is Soham here. So we have a question over here on the question and answer. So I'll just read it out to you. Or
the Q&A.
Yeah, the Q&A.
Okay, I have doubt that I was. So this is somebody who was analyzing radar data.
Yeah.
So generally this should work. And then, of course, it depends on the specifics that I cannot judge at the moment. But generally, this works. So if somebody is been working in a field where they've been using data a lot, and be it radar data, let me answer like this. There is something that master students and also PhD students often underestimate. And it's the fact that they think, I have been working with data, but it's all academic data or it's all scientific data. And actually, that's not good enough, or it's not industry data. There is actually that's something that companies totally appreciate, particularly also if you tell them that this is what you've been doing. The truth is, if as a master's student or a PhD student, you've been doing this type of data stuff, then you've been doing it kind of like in real life, like in a work environment, and you've had all the same problems, generally speaking, that you'd have in industry too. So you have to get your data from somewhere. They're probably dirty. Then they're incomplete. Then there are these stakeholders. Your professor now wants some answers urgently and you're struggling to provide them. Then there are people who criticize you. Then there are your coworkers that need to help you. Then the whole thing goes for review and somebody tells you, this ain't good enough. So the point here I'm trying to make is, if you've already worked in a field with data, you have enormously valuable hands-on data experience. And with apologies to those people that typically do online courses and capstone projects, in my experience, companies value hands-on concrete stuff over finger exercises. So it's more valuable than capstone or Kaggle. And this is how you should look at your data experience. And now one sentence for those that are now perhaps offended because I was just going on about the capstone and the capstone projects and some such and the Kaggles. If you are learning through online resources or bootcamp or Kaggle or whatever it is that you're doing, please remember that I earlier said to you, think about the domain experience. So something that you can no longer do, straightforward, no longer do. You cannot do online courses and then once use the Twitter API and then the next time use some health data and the third time do something else. It doesn't add up. It doesn't build a portfolio. Make a decision where you want to be and make sure that the stuff that you're doing somehow relates or even better builds on each other. So you do 3 capstone projects based on health data, then it gets interesting, okay? But don't do, please, that doesn't work any longer. 1 in health, 1 in autonomous mobility, and 1 somewhere else. There is not enough there. CV means resume. Yes, this is exactly the thing. It just depends which country you are and who's using what lingo. Okay, I'm a master's student in physics and currently working on ML application on astrophysics, switching to MTech in computer science after my master's. So if you're a master's student in astrophysics, then my guess again is that you already have ample data experience. After all, that's what astrophysicists typically do. And this is super, you're probably numerate, highly data literate. And what you now need to understand is really actually where you want to go with this. And when you're coming from astrophysics, it's not always super easy because astrophysics doesn't have a direct industrial application that you can translate it to. But you can probably make the bridge to where you want to go. And that should work well.
I think that has been already answered. I would like to add something to this, Chris. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So I believe like a lot of people are trying to, change the complete domain that they are in. Like
Yes.
I believe someone from a school teacher, right? So
yes.
Instead of skipping out to directly the complete new domain, they can overlay themselves, equip themselves with the new data science skills.
Yes.
And then utilize the same thing on top of their existing domain. Is that correct?
So let me answer like this. A few years ago, and particularly also when I was director of one of those boot camps, I was myself guilty of encouraging people to switch domains. And afterwards, I, in many events, also said, if you're starting a data career, this is also your chance. Actually, you want to get out of the domain. You've had enough of what you're doing. You want to do something else. Here's your chance. The other truth is that increasingly, this is not the case. But let me rephrase, so to speak, for the school teacher, or I'm actually thinking about the linguist and literature student that used to be a translator, say from English to Spanish or something like this. So people that come from very unusual places. You need their determination today. And I think one of the things that you need to do is you need to find a way of making certain choices that I spoke about early. So if you are coming from, left field and you want to go to the middle, which middle is it? And can you make sure that what you do as you're learning over a year or two to get your first job, can you ensure that what you do already is kind of builds something, that it builds a portfolio, that you also build a domain expertise. So this is wanting to say that, yes, you want to experiment for 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, I don't know, but you need to have that moment, red light, green light. I'm going to do this, green light. And with the green light needs to come the clear idea. My preferred choice really is to go and work in marketing analytics, or I want to work in finance. And even though I don't quite have the background, I'm learning the data, and therefore I'm making sure that all my projects, Capstone, GitHub, whatever it is that I do, are all in that domain so that it adds up. And I get better at it. And I can show my next employer, I've been getting ready for this. And I actually already know your industry, even though I might not have worked in it, so to speak, as a professional before. I think that's how you need to look at it.
Yeah, I believe that should answer the complete part. And like, I would even like to add to this, like, if you're trying to start up your career into data science, or even say machine learning or anything, before starting up, I would like to point out that at least make sure that you stay in your domain, because if you are switching up a different career, that would completely make you a fresher in that new domain, right? But if you already have 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years of experience in one particular domain, no need to switch into something completely different. You can stay in your domain, get the skills, and apply those skills in that particular domain itself. Because even teaching has even teaching can be utilized with machine learning. Even chemical engineering can be used with machine learning. I think even mechanical engineering can be taken up along with the machine learning skills. For mechanical engineering, I would say, for example, you can apply to industries where automation is being implemented. For chemical engineering, you can apply to such research labs or such areas where the particles are being taken up into consideration, and their molecular dimensions, their molecular some chemical reactions have been analyzed using the machine learning models. Or say if you're into teaching field, you can also look into education technology startups that works towards the education industry. So these are some portfolios or say profile that you can go for, rather than completely switching from one particular domain to something very different domain.
Yes, precisely, and probably I'm looking here at the question, so to speak, about the mechanical background and so on. So perhaps we can systematize it for the audience and for you how to think about it. So I'm going to take 2 examples: Airbus versus school teacher, or say mechanical engineer. Okay, so if you're in aerospace, basically what you need to do is you need to go for work for one of those companies. And then when you're in the company, the moment the data projects come around and the upskilling offers come around, you basically just need to raise your hand and make sure you take them. And actually the point here really is you need to be inside Airbus, and then it's much easier. That's route number 1. So please be aware that increasingly and in future, being inside a company, often, particularly be inside a company where you know that data is going to play a role. Then when you're there, often you will just need to lift your hand and off you go. So solution number 1. But the other solution, so I'm not in such a company, or I'm in an industry or field where the data is just not coming along, or it's not substantial. And anyway, I can't wait any longer. And I need to cross. I need to cross out of my country, out of my company, or I need to cross out of the domain even. So how do I do this, right? And then indeed, make an informed choice and start building towards this. I think that's what you need to do. If you don't do that, then you're in this unfortunate position where you're kind of searching around, and you will get rejected a lot, or maybe if you're unlucky, always, because of that conundrum that you can't solve unless you kind of make it clear what is the domain that you're looking for. And this is sometimes hard to do, I realize. So, when you were searching for a next role, there's always this temptation to keep your options open. We all know that. I don't really know, and maybe there, and no. And sometimes I also meet people that are so courageous and send out 200 applications in 1 month. Yeah, that in itself is an admirable feat. Yeah, how do you manage 200 applications in 1 month? But what you miss there is you miss going specific. And we've been learning a lot about startups and new ventures and how to go about this in the last 10 to 20 years. And there's something to it. So just like you say that for a startup company, they really need to define their niche well and understand who their customer is. The same is true for you in your job search. If you want to be successful and be faster, you need to understand your niche. You need to understand who is going to go, oh, this is a really interesting, let me call this person right away. You figure that out, and the interviews come. And the truth is, globally speaking, every niche is now big enough.
I think that should answer this question, but I would even like to add something to that. So Shubham, you can do one thing if you're in probably in India. So you can do one thing as well. You can specify, or you can target those 10 to 15 companies that you would like to work as an internship, or if you want to work over there as an intern. You can target those 10 to 15 companies and gather a lot of details from them and see what kind of research is going on, what kind of product they have, what kind of the background that they are looking for. Then you can modify your resume, or you can modify your skills according to their requirement, and then specifically apply to those positions, rather than directly going and applying on those particular position. So I think this should even help you to figure out how you want to, or which companies you want to go for. I think that should answer your question a bit. Yeah.
There's
so
one
question.
One more about the data structures. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you can answer that, Chris.
The answer, I'm going to start from here.
Sure.
So sometimes in the last months, people have come to me and said, Andrew Eng recently said, it's all in the data. And that seemed news. And then from where I sit, that wasn't news at all. It was just a final acknowledgement that you need to pay attention to your data. And actually, to some extent, it's not all in the data, but if you don't have your data right, and the quality, the quantity, and a few other things aren't there, you can do all the modeling you want. The outcome will still be garbage. And that's it. And then what I also want to say is, it's something you learn over time. So I do not think that when you're at entry level, that somebody can fault you for not yet having an intimate knowledge of the data. Actually, that would not be appropriate. And if they do it, it's bad luck, but I wouldn't be bothered. However, if you want to be a senior or you want to be a lead, you actually need that deep knowledge. And that knowledge needs to be acquired through experience too. And it really matters increasingly. And as more and more companies move to commercialize this stuff and deploy AI at scale, they will be learning that this, that it's really important, and that this old quip, this old complaint by data scientists, I really don't like my job. 80% of my time I'm cleaning the data and only 10% is modeling, and I really don't like it. I want to model all the time. It's the wrong end of the stick. You need to be willing to invest that 80% in getting your data quality right.
Yeah. I think that we have answered them. The other one, can I take up that?
The opportunities in Germany. I've worked in automotive industry. I have a really straightforward answer. So I'm guessing this question is coming from somewhere outside Europe. The way you do this, the way this works is you start working for Daimler in India. You do that for a year, and then you ask for a transfer to Stuttgart. That's how you do it. It's also, by the way, how you go from Berlin to the Silicon Valley. You don't go and apply for a visa in the US. You go and work for Google, and you request a transfer to Mountain View after 12 months. That's how you do it. So done. And then specific about building a portfolio. Yes. Yes, I still think that you should be. So one of the things that I didn't have chance to today, but I can point out. So use your search engine. And for example, type into your search engine, please, market map for AI startups. So I'm going to type it here in the chat because I can do that for AI startups. You type in something like that, and then you already in the all, or perhaps through images, you will find these market maps. When you look at the market maps, you will see that they list a lot of companies and that they start organizing robotics, fintech, automotive, marketing, general computational AI, conversational AI, and so on and so on. They give you categories. And you use that, you can do that on your desk in the course of a couple of days. You take 5 such market maps from the last 5 years, you look at the categories and you start investigating, and you use that as a shortcut. So one of the things you can do, really a bit old fashioned, but will probably work, take 5 market maps, find a printer, print them out, take a red marker and cross out all the categories that you already know are not interesting to you. That's often easier, what you say no to. Look at what remains. And that fast tracks you to this question that you have here. So how do I find my domain industry? Take the market maps, cross out everything you know you're not interested in, see what remains, and then investigate those in a little depth for a couple of weeks. And I'm pretty sure you can get your answer through desk research alone.
I think that should answer a lot of the questions today. Like, we are open for like 10 minutes more, 10 to 15 minutes more. If you guys have more questions, you can please go ahead and ask. Chris, I would like to ask you, like if these people can, now there will be a lot of CVs, but like, is there something that they can, cross-validate their CV and, according to the data science, you can say field?
So you're asking how can people understand better whether their CV is good?
Yeah. Do you have some examples, or we can have some, data validation, you can say, part, and maybe vet it out for them?
It's a tricky field and it's not easy. So you will have noticed that I've provided you with examples, but you've also noticed that I've provided you with examples and they're anonymized.
Yeah.
And they need to be anonymized. This is the field of CVs and resumes is personal data, and this is notoriously treacherous, difficult to handle. And I think we all need to take care with this. So that's why that. On the other hand, of course, there are platforms like LinkedIn on which you can go and look at profiles of data scientists, and you can filter by location, you can filter by company, you can filter by your network, use those filter functions and go and look at some of these. And you can use that to benchmark yourself a little bit. And then one other way in which you can do this is simply to do your CV and show it to some people. You can show it to other people in the field where you can already meet face-to-face again. You can go to somewhere where people meet and actually print a paper copy, put it in front of 2 people, get some feedback. You can use recruiters. You can use recruiting companies and get some feedback. So do it in some sense, get that feedback and understand it. And that will definitely help, because it will also help you to understand how your customer, your user of your CV actually looks at this. Okay, there's a more question on the chat. How should a finance professional start their career in AI? So if you're a finance professional and you're working in a finance company of some sort, the first question back always is, do you have data? Is the company doing anything with data? Because that's the first and most obvious thing to do, actually, inside your company. If you happen to work for a company that doesn't have data, I don't know, is possible, then I would use my experience as a finance professional and go and work for another finance company, bank company, or whatever it is that has the data. That's how I would do it. And then in that company, get my hands on the data project. That's really it's where you get to technically upskill while enhancing your domain expertise and building something. So that'd be my advice on that one.
Yeah, and I believe there are a lot of Google data sets already available for the finance professionals, so they can, get some hands-on experience, or even practice themselves for those finance tech companies, and they also have put up a lot of data sets on Google dataset research. So that is one of the link that I would like to share on the chat in a minute or two, where you can definitely find out a lot of data set to practice on. And then you can slowly understand what all things are included in the financial, for the finance professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'll just share the link in a minute. Meanwhile, can you, Chris, can you take up this point that how people can, join AI Guild?
This is really, really, really simple. So the AI Guild is a practitioner community, something that I often like to say, we're not for the enthusiasts, we're for the people that do it from entry level to CXO. We've been around for 2 years, and kind of course, the practitioners grow with the AI Guild and become more experienced. So I think most of the members now are senior or above. You use the link to the Guild AI, and actually you can, the link to apply is right on the front page.
Thank you. This was actually asked on my Slack channel actually, so I just had to put it up so that it's recorded.
Okay, we have a late question coming in about botany, switch into data science. Now, I'm not a botany student. I once knew an editor in an academic publishing house that had a botany degree, but that's about as far as it goes. I'm guessing that if you're in the field of botany, there will be data sets around plants. And if not in plant biology or plant science or whatever it is that botany is then also part of, then somewhere around there are data sets. And that's where I would start, because you already have domain knowledge and you can probably make sense of the data and understand what these data sets look like, what the quality is, how they're structured, what the potential value might be to whom of this kind of data. And get curious about this. And once you've done that and you've dipped in a bit into the data sets around you where you have more domain expertise, you can then also, of course, go and ask yourself, so do I want to stay in that field? And if so, are there things? And there are, of course, there are food companies that meet people that know something about botany and data. I mean, it's fairly obvious, yeah? And it's food and health and the whole, it's a big, it's one of the biggest industries of all, actually. Also has some very, very dominant players, but it's obvious. And then perhaps you don't want to do that. And then the question is, well, if not, then where to? But there you go. Yeah, and I think I can add to that point as well. So Dhruva, you can even look into the link that I shared earlier, that is data research. You can go through that. Also, you can go to Google Scholar and check out different botany examples which have been combined along with the machine learning and the AI part. So that should give you a lot of image classifications. That is, I mean, the IRIS dataset is the best one example of the botany part. So that should give you some idea about this. Along with that, you can also go through a lot of research paper that has been published on Google Scholar, on IEEE, on various KD Nuggets is one of the good platform that you can go to and check out different research that has been conducted over the past years. So I think this is not something very much new. Who would like to combine botany with data science? So that you can definitely go ahead and do that. I think that should answer your question, Satrupa. Thank you. Welcome. There were some questions. You have already answered them. Okay, yes, and someone asked you for being cackled. Okay. So anybody with a final question that they would like to have answered, now's your chance in the Q&A or the chat. Yeah, I think we are left with the five minutes more. Yeah. Okay, then while perhaps the last question, and so I posted or shared with you earlier the fact that last night I completed a short Medium article that gives you a bit of background information, and at the bottom of the Medium article actually inserted the slide set. The Medium article also includes links to other places that you go that provide this relevant information to you. So it's all out there, it's all open, it's all free to read, it's free to use. You can use it as a starting point. Other people will also have things to say on this. And going back to the very beginning, where I said, where I had this quote from Jean-François Garnier about, why data careers are on the one hand fascinating, and on the other hand, what you need to do. So, this determination to improve the hard skills and the soft skills, then what you have today, I think, is a start and an opening to understand in terms of business skills and soft skills and other things on how to structure your career, how you might go about this. And I have one final comment or one final observation for you to entice you to actually really pay attention to this and do it. So you remember I said at the very beginning, 500,000 practitioners. Actually, it's research that Garnier has been doing for years, that he's been trying to estimate the global number of practitioners. There may be some errors in the calculations and maybe some numbers he didn't see, but as a ballpark estimate is probably true. And I'm telling you, it was 500,000 for 2020, and it was 50,000 for 2016. And that's a 10x. Okay. And of course, actually, it's not surprising if we think about it. If we think about the excitement and the need and the way this is happening, and also the data streams that have become available, it's not surprising that the field is growing so rapidly. And it will continue growing so rapidly. And I wouldn't be surprised if in 2025, somebody showed us there are now 5 million practitioners. It also means that everyone in the field is typically fresh. Maybe they're also young, but for sure they're fresh. That's also fine. We will kind of grow old together, if you so like, or grow more experience together. But it also has implications for you. The implication for you is to understand that you have like 4 or 5 years ahead of you in which Garnier's statement is true. Okay, it's true. If you sit down, do your homework, and structure your career, 4 years to senior, 5 years to lead, you can do it. But also in 2025, all the positions will be filled. And then if everybody who's sitting in these positions is somewhere between 35 and 45 or something like this, you can see that you will have to wait 10 years, 15 years, 20 years for a significant number of new openings to emerge at some point. Yeah, when S-curve, it starts to saturate at some point. So use this and other stuff that's being presented to you this year, next year, to get ahead and do it, so that in 2025, you're the lead and not somebody else.
Definitely. And I think by that time, maybe something you may be able to, experience something very much new and, solve something new problem. So even that should give you a good edge about rest of the competitors that you already have. I think so.
I would hope so.
So yeah. Okay. GitHub. So I think someone else is, adamant to give you like the GitHub. I mean, someone is asking your GitHub ID.
I haven't been a GitHub user in a long time.
Yeah, I think that should answer. Yeah, I think we are good to go on this. And thank you all to attend this wonderful event, the second day. And thank you, Chris, so much to answer a lot of questions and give a lot of insights on how to get a data career.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you
to all the participants.
Hope it was useful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Please.
Thank you, Julia. Have a great day. Bye-bye, all of you. We'll see you tomorrow then. Thank you.